Hey guys, tonight we're sinking into a world where the air smells of chimney soot, damp wool, and a touch of something vaguely rotting, maybe cabbage, maybe regret. You're waking up in Tudor England. The year doesn't matter, because the laws haven't changed in a while, and neither have the punishments. Your eyes blink open to a low timber ceiling, beams dark with age and smoke. There's no pillow, just a rolled up bit of cloth under your head, and the straw beneath you crunches with every movement. Something scurries in the corner. You hope it's a rat, because the other option has more legs. Your back aches like you've slept on a bag of uneven stones. You have. Your knees creak as you sit up, the cold biting your skin where your threadbare blanket slipped away in the night. Outside, a bell tolls, maybe for mass, maybe for someone's public sentencing. You can't tell yet. What you do know is that your day will be long, your porridge will be thin, and the chamber pot, once again, has overflowed. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love knowing where in the world we're dreaming together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You swing your legs down and your bare feet hit the stone floor. It's wet. Not with water, just Tudor things. A low fire hisses in the hearth, barely holding on from the night. Someone outside is already shouting. Not angry shouting, just announcing something. In this era, news travels by voice and punishment is a form of theater. You wipe the sleep from your eyes and tug on your same scratchy tunic, the one that smells faintly of mold and wood smoke, and step into the chill. Outside, the fog is thick and low, curling around the timber-framed houses like a woolen scarf pulled too tight. Horses clop by, chickens scatter, and you, half awake, are pulled by habit toward the market square, not for bread, but for spectacle. Today's punishment is public. They usually are. The town crier says a boy was caught stealing apples. He's already in the stocks. His head droops, legs trapped in place like a toy figure abandoned in mid-movement. You find yourself joining the crowd, not because you're cruel, but because there's nothing else. No plays, no books, no warm pub this early. Just justice served fresh and humbling. The people around you munch on cold bread and offer commentary like sports fans. A woman spits. A child throws a carrot top. Somewhere, a clerk jots down the punishment in a ledger that will survive centuries longer than the boy's pride. It's strange how normalized this feels. The sound of someone sobbing in the stocks is as common as a dog barking. Your breath steams in the air, and your boots begin to soak through. You shift from foot to foot, but there's no escaping the cold. Tudor cold settles into your bones like bad news. Historians still debate whether these public humiliations actually reduced crime, or simply made a show of controlling the poor. Either way, they were effective at one thing: reminding everyone watching that the law had teeth, and didn't mind bearing them. Your stomach growls. You didn't eat dinner last night. You haven't eaten a proper meal since the small feast day 2 weeks ago when someone roasted a goose. You still dream about that goose. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you just took something. A loaf, an apple. Would it really come to this? Would your feet be locked in wood and your name whispered by neighbors for days? You scratch your arm. The tunic's seams bite into your shoulder. Same as always. Nearby, a man hawks eel pies and barley cakes to those enjoying the scene. You buy none, but the smell, earthy, greasy, full of longing, makes your knees weak. Not just from hunger, but from standing too long. Or maybe it's from that ever-present ache in your joints. Like your body knows it's living in the wrong century. The crowd shifts. Some grow bored. Others wait for the next act. You follow them, because there's nothing else to follow. No phones. No soft chairs. No endless content to scroll. Just the clatter of wooden shoes and the chill that never lifts. And just as your feet begin to ache from the uneven cobblestones, You hear a familiar, heavy creak from the far end of the square. Another punishment is about to begin, and this one involves your neck and wrists. The pillory stands like a warning in the far end of the square, its timber aged to a deep gray. Darker in places from rain, and darker still from other things. You can tell it's seen use. A lot of it, unlike the stocks, which only bind your feet. The pillory wants more from you. It wants your arms, your shoulders, your neck, and your dignity. Most of all, you approach slowly, though you're not the one being punished this time. Not yet. A man is already locked in. His face poking through the top like a weary puppet. His eyes dart side to side, avoiding contact, as if looking someone in the eye might invite another handful of slop or a half-rotten tomato. He's been there a while, his shirt is soaked. His arms hang limp, and a crust of something foul has dried on the collar. The air around the pillory smells sharper than the rest of the square, sour with old vegetables. Sweat, and that bitter tang of humiliation. It clings to your nostrils like smoke. You shiver, though not entirely from the cold. A boy near you leans over and whispers, "He slandered the baker." You nod, though you don't know the baker. And slander could mean anything. Maybe he complained about the price of bread. Maybe he muttered a joke under his breath. Maybe the baker just had a bad morning. In Tudor England, words are sharp enough to draw blood. And the law is always listening, especially if you're poor. Your toes curl inside your damp boots. You wonder what it's like up there, locked in place for hours. Your back would seize. Your neck would throb. Your skin would itch in places you can't reach. And worst of all, you wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. Someone draws closer to the pillory. It's an older woman with a basket of beets. She doesn't throw one, she just holds it out like an offering. Sneering as if she's feeding a pig. The man turns his head, just slightly, and the beet splats against his jaw with a soft thud. A murmur of laughter rolls through the crowd. You feel it then, that eerie second-hand shame. Your hands twitch uselessly at your sides. Your throat tightens, and you think, just for a second, how easily it could be you. All it would take is one careless word, one wrong accusation, one person with more status and less patience. The man in the pillory droops further. Spit hangs from his lip. His hair clings to his forehead like seaweed on a stone. He's not crying, not yet, but he's close. You can tell by the way his fingers dig into the wood. How his chest shakes even though he's not laughing. The pillory wasn't just punishment. It was theater, designed to entertain, to shame, to let the townspeople feel righteous for a few fleeting hours. And it worked, because even as your heart twists for the man, a small, sharp part of you is glad it's not your name being shouted. Not your face drawn in coal on the side of the church wall with horns and a tail. Historians still argue whether these displays did more to discourage crime, or simply desensitize entire communities to cruelty. You don't need to argue. You just feel it, in your bones, in your stomach, in your breath, which catches every time someone jeers. And still, you stand there, watching. You imagine what it's like once the punishment ends. Once the latch is lifted and your body spills out of the wooden frame like dough from a broken mold. You'd be sore, embarrassed, filthy, and you'd still have to walk home. Past the same people who saw you drool and gag and wince. Past the children who mimicked your voice. Past the woman with the beat. You scratch your shoulder, right on that seam again. Same spot, that cursed tunic. You think about how clothing here isn't just a comfort, it's a signal. Of class, of profession, of what people can do to you without consequence. You don't look like nobility. And that means the law looks at you differently. Or doesn't look at you at all. Still, even in the filth and fear, there's something mesmerizing about the ritual. The crowd, the rhythm of the insults, the occasional gasp when someone throws something unexpected, like that child now, who just flung a live frog and ran. You suppress a laugh, not because it's funny, but because absurdity is the only softness Tudor punishments allow. And just when you think the spectacle is winding down, when the crowd seems bored, and the man in the pillory has sagged into an almost unconscious slump. Someone in authority steps forward. The bailiff. He checks the time on the church's sundial, nods to another man, and the wood creaks open. The prisoner stumbles forward, dazed and sticky, and is led away by someone, friend or jailer. You can't tell. His place is quickly cleaned with a rag that's seen better centuries. And just like that, the space is ready for the next. You don't know why your stomach flips as they begin to call out another name. But your breath quickens. Your knees sting with tension. You whisper a prayer you barely believe in. Because sometimes, in Tudor England, being a little too curious was enough to make you next. Your legs ache from standing. The stones beneath your feet are uneven. And no matter how you shift your weight, the cold creeps in through the soles of your boots like a judgment. You think about leaving the square, heading back to your little room with its lice-ridden straw and the fire that's likely died. But you don't. Something in you wants to stay, curiosity. Maybe, or fear. In Tudor England, understanding what happens to others is a survival instinct. Learn the rules by watching someone else break them. Today, it's a woman. She's not crying. Not yet. Two constables bring her to the center of the square. Her arms bound loosely with frayed rope. She walks steadily, jaw tight, eyes fixed somewhere beyond the crowd. Beyond this century. You don't know her name. But someone whispers that she's been accused of gossip. Speaking ill of the magistrate's wife. They say. Or maybe she laughed during a sermon. No one is quite sure. But everyone agrees it was her mouth that got her here. And now, for that very mouth, she's going to wear iron. The scold's bridle is already hanging from a nearby post. It looks like something a blacksmith might have made in a nightmare. A heavy metal cage designed to fit over the head. With a sharp, cruel plate meant to press down on the tongue. Not slice it, just suppress it. It's punishment not for action, but for speech. And in the Tudor world, words can be more dangerous than weapons. The constables take their time. There's a performance to it. One holds the bridle up for the crowd to see. And there's a collective murmur, some amused, some pitying, a few excited in a way that makes your stomach churn. The woman does not resist. But her breath is visible now. Sharp clouds of defiance in the morning air. They place the contraption over her head slowly. Carefully. The clang of iron echoes off the surrounding buildings. As the bridle settles into place, her eyes close. Not in fear. Not in shame. Just as if she's turning inward. You wonder what she's remembering. A child's laughter? The smell of her husband's coat? The feeling of her own voice. Once so free? Once locked. The scold's bridle transforms her. She becomes an object. A warning. A visual proverb. Children point. A man chuckles and says something crude about women keeping quiet. You don't laugh. Your mouth feels dry. And then, something unexpected. She wobbles. Just slightly. Not enough to fall, but enough to remind everyone that she's a person under all that metal. Her knees bend. A nearby constable shouts at the crowd to give her space. But no one moves. The circle only tightens. Your fingers curl involuntarily. You imagine what it must feel like, that heavy iron pressing against your skull. The tongue clamp flattening your words into silence. The metal biting into your jaw. You can almost taste rust. Your own tongue retreats as if in protest. Historians still argue about the use of the scold's bridle, how often it was applied. Whether it was reserved for true social disruptors or merely those who spoke out of turn. Some say it was rare. Some say it was common enough to be feared in every village. Either way, the bridle is not a legend. It's real. It rusts in museums now. But in this moment, it glows faintly in the sun like a relic of living cruelty. A few moments later, someone tosses a cabbage leaf. It hits her shoulder and slides down slowly. She doesn't flinch. Not once. You suspect she's left her body behind. That her mind has flown somewhere far away, beyond the square. Beyond the century. Beyond pain. The minutes pass like molasses in a cold pot. You shift your weight again. And your hip clicks. You're too young for your joints to ache like this. But Tudor life is hard on the body. There's no cushion for suffering here. No margin for error. Only rules, punishments, and the silence of those who survive them. Eventually, the constables return. The bridle is unlocked. It scrapes as it's removed. And the woman sways slightly. Her face is soaked, not with tears, but with sweat. Her mouth opens, just barely, as if to speak, but nothing comes out. Not yet, maybe not ever. She's led away, leaving behind the impression of something sacred, an altar of silence. Someone nearby says, "That'll teach her," but you're not sure it taught anyone anything except how far people will go to stop a voice. You turn to leave, thinking the punishments are done for the day. But the crowd is only shifting, not dispersing. A new setup is forming. This time by the river's edge. You follow quietly, steps slow and heart heavy. Because this one is different. This one will involve water. A ducking stool. And whether the accused floats or sinks, the shame will stay. As you trudge down the muddy path with the others, the sour smell of the square still clings to your tunic. That same scratchy fabric. Always damp. Always unforgiving. You wonder if it remembers the pain of those who wore it before you. If it, too, is stitched with stories that never got to be told. You blink against the wind. The river glistens ahead, cold, dark, waiting, and so are the villagers, lining up like it's a fair. Your knees ache. Your breath catches. The day is far from over. The riverbank smells of wet earth and old moss. You follow the flow of villagers, boots slipping in the soft mud, as they gather around a strange contraption that juts out over the water, a long, creaking beam balanced on a fulcrum, with a heavy wooden chair lashed to one end. The ducking stool. The moment you see it, your skin crawls. It's not just the cold that gets you, it's the anticipation. The way everyone seems oddly excited. There's chatter, a few laughs, and someone's brought dried pears to chew on while they watch. You're not sure what unsettles you more, the punishment, or how ordinary it feels to everyone around you. A woman is brought forward. She's middle-aged, hair hastily braided, clothes clinging damply to her legs. You can see by the way she walks, rigid, trembling, that she knows what's coming. Her crime? Accused of being a witch, or being too outspoken, or just being a widow with no man to vouch for her. In Tudor England, that's often enough. She doesn't scream, but her eyes scan the river with the kind of dread that makes your chest tighten. The water is black and slow, surface broken only by a few drifting leaves and the occasional bubble rising like a warning. Two men begin to tie her to the chair. The ropes groan against the wood. She winces as they bind her wrists and ankles, but still says nothing. The crowd shuffles closer. You do, too, though part of you wants to turn and run. The ducking stool was never meant to be fatal. That's what they say. It's meant to teach, to scare, to humiliate. But the river doesn't care what it was meant to do. And neither does the cold. The beam is raised. There's a tense pause. And then, with a collective breath from the onlookers, the chair swings down into the water. It hits with a splash that soaks the front row of villagers. Some shriek with laughter. Others lean forward, squinting. You strain to see, heart pounding. The chair vanishes under the surface. Ropes trailing like kelp. The seconds stretch. 10, 15, 20. You feel it in your own lungs. That burn of held breath. Your hands clutch each other. Then, with a loud creak, the stool is pulled back up. Water pours from the woman's dress. Her hair clings to her face like seaweed. Her eyes wide, chest heaving. The crowd is quiet for a moment, as if judging whether she looks more guilty or more human now. Someone calls out, again, and again. She goes under. Your stomach flips. You want to look away, but your gaze is stuck like a cartwheel in thick mud. There's a strange rhythm to it, the slow arc of the chair. The splash, the gurgle, the tension, the silence. Historians still debate how often the ducking stool was used for witchcraft versus moral offenses like scolding or gossiping. Some say it was more symbolic than functional. But here, now, It's very real. The river doesn't debate, it drowns. The third time she's lifted out. Her head droops to one side. Her lips are pale. A man with a gray beard rushes forward and checks her pulse. She lives. Barely. The crowd breathes again, relieved. But not out of compassion. More because death would end the show. She's unbound and dragged to the grass. Coughing. Collapsing. Gasping for something more than just air. Dignity. Maybe. Peace. A sense that her body still belongs to her. You step back, suddenly aware of how many eyes are still watching. Not just the woman, but each other. In this place, judgment is currency. If you look too sympathetic, someone might wonder what you're hiding. Your shoulder aches. That same pressure you always feel in cold weather, it presses harder now. Like your tunic has grown heavier with each punishment you've seen. You cross your arms and try to look neutral. The ducking stool is left dripping. The ropes twisted like snakes. No one dares sit near it. Children throw pebbles at the river. And for a brief moment, it's just water again. Cold, wide, indifferent. You walk away slowly. Boots squelching in the mud. The sun is higher now. But no warmer. Somewhere, a rooster crows late. Someone calls for meat pies. You glance back at the woman. She's still on the grass. Curled like a child. Her dress clings to her legs. And her hair spills around her like a mourning shroud. You think, for a moment, that she sees you. Her eyes meet yours. And there's no blame in them, just exhaustion. Just the echo of water. You reach the edge of the crowd. A man walks past you muttering. She'll keep her mouth shut now. You don't respond. You just keep walking. As you turn toward the center of the village again, the familiar structure of the stocks comes back into view. But this time, something else catches your eye. A brazier. Glowing hot. A branding iron rests in its coals. The end shaped like a letter, an ornate V, maybe for vagrant. Or thief. Or villain. Your throat tightens. Because the next punishment doesn't involve water. It involves fire. The brazier hisses as damp air touches its edge. Smoke curls upward like a lazy spirit, carrying with it the distinct scent of scorched iron and burned oil. Around it, a small crowd is forming, not as rowdy as before, but quieter, more solemn. You join them almost by instinct, pulled in like everyone else by the heat and the tension. A blacksmith stands nearby, sleeves rolled up, soot smeared across his forearms. He stares into the coals like a man trying to forget what he's about to do. The branding iron is half buried in the fire, glowing a dull, ominous red at the tip. It's not fully hot yet, not quite ready, but it will be. And when it is, it will mark someone forever. You shift uneasily. This punishment is different, more permanent. Stocks humiliate. The ducking stool terrifies. But branding? Branding stays. It's a scar shaped like a letter, meant to warn the world about who you are, or who someone says you are. They bring the girl forward. She's young, no older than 16, maybe even younger. Freckles dot her nose. Her sleeves are too long, as if the dress was borrowed or inherited. She looks like she hasn't eaten properly in weeks. You hear someone mutter, "Caught stealing cheese." Another says, "It was bread." A third claims she took a candle from the church. The details blur. The sentence remains. She's led to a wooden stool and made to sit. Her wrists are bound loosely in front of her. Not to restrain her, just to keep her from running. She's shaking, not sobbing, not pleading, just trembling in that full body way that starts at the spine and radiates outward. You feel it in your own shoulders. A sympathetic ache that tightens the muscles of your neck. The blacksmith steps forward, his face unreadable. He pulls the iron from the coals. And it makes a sound you can feel more than hear, a deep, dry shish like the breath of something ancient. The tip is no longer red. It's white hot. He glances at the magistrate, who gives a nod. And then, with practiced speed, the blacksmith presses the letter into the flesh of her palm. There's a hiss. And for 1 second, the only thing you hear is the sound of skin searing. She doesn't scream. Her mouth opens wide, too wide, and then clamps shut again. Her eyes go glassy. Her legs kick once. And then, she just stops moving. The iron is pulled away. Her hand twitches. The mark is already raised, angry. Swollen. The shape of a life that just changed forever. A woman rushes forward with a cloth soaked in vinegar and herbs. She wraps the hand gently. But you can see the way the girl flinches even from that. Historians still debate whether branding was more common in urban centers or rural towns. Some say it was rarely enforced. Others say it was a standard practice for petty crimes, especially for those with no connections. No coin, no protection, and of course, the branding varied. A-T for thief. A-V for vagrant. Sometimes even an F for felon. The letters weren't just symbols. They were sentences. The girl is helped to her feet. She's unsteady, but standing. Her eyes blink slowly, like someone coming out of a fever dream. She doesn't look at the crowd. She doesn't look at you. She just lets herself be led away. Her arm cradled like something broken. You want to say something. Anything. But the words never come. So instead, you watch the iron go back into the fire. The blacksmith cleans it carefully, wiping away what's left of her pain. The crowd disperses, slowly, like mist. No one cheers. No one claps. Branding is not entertainment. It's memory. One that doesn't fade. You rub your own palm without thinking. It's cold and dry. Your skin pale and stiff. You imagine a scar there, burning every time you try to hold a coin, reach for bread, or clasp another person's hand. A lifelong whisper. This is who you are. And yet, part of you knows the girl might consider herself lucky. Because the next punishment waiting in the town square is worse. They say it's for repeat offenders. Or for crimes considered audacious. It's not death, not exactly. But it changes everything. It changes your body. It changes the way people look at you. It removes something that can't be stitched back. The cleaver sits on a small wooden stump near the old stocks. It glints in the morning light. Sharp and deliberate. You think about leaving. Truly. This time, your legs are sore. Your breath feels tight. The back of your throat stings from the brazier smoke. But you don't leave. Because the next man brought forward is familiar. He's not a stranger. He's the butcher's apprentice. The one who gave you a free marrowbone last winter. The one who smiled when he could have scowled. You see him now. Wrists bound. Eyes red. Shirt already off to expose the trembling flesh of his arm. He stole something, they say. Maybe money. Maybe meat. Maybe he was just too slow to deny it. Whatever the truth, the sentence is set. Amputation. Not a leg. Not a finger. A hand. They say it's the fairest choice. He can still walk. He can still eat. But he cannot steal again. The magistrate reads the sentence. No one protests. There's no lawyer. No plea. Only the apprentice's shallow breathing and the butcher, his master, standing nearby. Holding a rag that used to be white. The boy kneels beside the block. And the cleaver is raised. The cleaver hangs in the air like a thread made solid. You find yourself holding your breath. As if the silence might somehow stop the blade. The butcher's apprentice kneels at the block. His right hand outstretched across its surface. Palm down. Fingers splayed. His arm trembles. Muscles taut with terror. He's barely more than a boy. 17. Maybe. He stares at the worn grooves in the wood. Marks left behind by others who knelt before him. Those whose names no one remembers but whose pain has carved itself into this place. The executioner, a man in leather apron and rolled sleeves, adjusts his grip on the cleaver. It's clean. For now. Too clean. You wonder if it's ever been used before or if this is someone's first time at justice. The magistrate gives the signal. No fanfare. Just a nod. And the cleaver comes down. The sound is sickening, not a crisp chop, but a wet, meaty thunk, followed by a gasp from the crowd. Not all of them, just a few. Most have seen this before. Some even lean in, fascinated. The boy's scream bursts out of him like air from a bellows, high-pitched. Raw, animal. You feel it ripple down your spine. His hand, falls limp beside the block. Fingers curling gently as if trying to hold onto the moment. Blood pools quickly. A thick, dark red that steams in the morning air. A woman near you turns away, covering her mouth. A child asks, "Can he get a new one?" The mother doesn't answer. Someone rushes forward with a hot iron to cauterize the wound. The hiss that follows is sharper than before. And for a moment, the boy seems to vanish into his own pain, face ghost pale. Lips moving but saying nothing. You step back, not because you're scared, though you are, but because it feels wrong to be this close to something so permanent. Punishment here isn't just about crime. It's about memory. Everyone will remember this boy. This moment. This hand left behind like a broken promise. Historians still debate whether amputations were common for theft or exaggerated in popular tales. Some argue that branding was more typical. But even so, records show that dismemberment was legal and used, especially for those without money to pay a fine. In Tudor law, wealth could buy mercy. Poverty was its own crime. The boy is wrapped in cloth, his stump tied tight. Two men help him to his feet. Though he nearly falls, his eyes are unfocused. He stares at where his hand used to be, as if trying to will it back. You imagine what it will be like tomorrow, or a week from now, when he tries to hold a knife, or clean a stall, or wave. The cleaver is wiped down with water and herbs, then placed back on the stump. Its job is done. Until next time. The crowd is already thinning. It's nearly midday, and people have work to return to, fields, shops, soup pots. The air is warmer now, the sun climbing higher, but you still feel cold. Your own hand, still whole, curls into a fist without thinking. You walk away slowly, boots heavy with mud and unease. You tell yourself you're done watching for today, that your stomach can't take another punishment, that you'll go home, eat something, anything, and rest. But then you hear a name called out behind you. Not yours, but close enough. You stop, because this time, it isn't the square, or the river, or even the branding brazier. This time, it's the castle, more precisely, the tower. And someone, important, apparently, has been sentenced to the rack. Your knees nearly buckle at the thought. Not the rack, anything but that. The stories are endless. Bones pulled out of joint. Sinews stretched like ropes. Screams that never end. The rack isn't justice, it's warning. Spectacle. Torture wrapped in official ribbon. But you turn. Because you have to. Because some dark curiosity in you wants to know. Wants to understand how far the Tudor world can go. And what it demands in return. You follow the others uphill. Towards stone walls that loom against the pale sky. A guard at the gate raises his halberd but lets you pass. You're nobody. You pose no threat. You're just another set of eyes to witness the undoing of a body. Inside, the air shifts. Colder. Thicker. The smell of limestone and sweat clings to the stone like old secrets. You descend into the damp passageway where the rack is kept. They say it's the safest form of pain. No blood. No visible scars. No death. Only the slow destruction of what holds you together. You reach the chamber just as the prisoner is brought in. He's older, nobly dressed, though his coat has been removed. His limbs are bound with care, as if the precision of pain somehow makes it more civilized. The rack itself is a brutal thing, a long frame with rollers at either end. Ropes coiled like serpents. A man turns the crank slowly, and the prisoner groans as the tension begins. You feel it in your own joints. Your shoulders ache, your spine tingles, your ankles throb. The crank turns again. The scream that follows is hoarse, muffled, soaked in rage and fear. It echoes off the stones. You try not to imagine your own arms stretched like that. You fail. The guard keeps turning, and just as the fourth click resounds in the hollow chamber, the air seems to still. Because pain, true, unraveling pain, doesn't just fill the room. It replaces it. The air in the chamber feels heavier now, like it's been thickened by the sound of someone else's bones being asked to do something they were never meant to. You can smell it. 2. Not blood. Not yet. But something rawer. The scent of muscle pushed past its limit. Of panic sweat. Of rope fibers grinding against skin. It smells like the inside of a scream. The prisoner on the rack is groaning now, low. Guttural. Almost rhythmic. One arm has already gone limp. The shoulder joint, from what you can see, isn't where it used to be. His other hand still flutters. Twitching in midair. Reaching for something unseen. Maybe dignity. Maybe a moment before all this began. And the crank turns again. You hear the pop before you see it. A sound like a green stick snapping in a winter forest. One of his knees jerks outward unnaturally. He doesn't scream this time. He just moans, long and low. The kind of sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. You try to look away. You don't. Because the rack is one of those punishments that teaches you something. Not just about pain. About power. About what happens when your body is no longer yours. It was used, mostly, for extracting confessions, or secrets, or names. Historians still debate whether most confessions under torture were accepted by the courts. Or just used unofficially, like whispers in the dark. But here, in this place, it doesn't matter. Because you're not watching justice. You're watching destruction. The torturer, a man in simple brown clothes, face unreadable, pauses to ask the prisoner a question. You can't hear it, but the answer is clear. Silence. Stubborn silence. So the crank turns again. And the ropes tighten, pulling the man just a little more apart. You feel it in your own limbs. Your fingers clench. Your toes curl. Your spine feels suddenly visible. Like it knows someone is thinking about it. You shift your weight, but the floor is stone. And your boots feel too thin. That scratchy tunic rubs against your neck again. Always that same seam, like a persistent reminder. You're still here. You're still whole. For now. There are no cheers here. No jokes. No vendors selling pies. This isn't public punishment. It's private theater. Just enough witnesses to make it real. Just enough fear to keep it going. A priest enters. Quietly. He murmurs something to the prisoner. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a chance to speak. To confess. The man shakes his head weakly. Blood drips from the corner of his mouth. You hadn't noticed it before. But it's been there a while. Trailing down into the neckline of his shirt. You wonder what he knows. What he's protecting. Or if, perhaps, he knows nothing at all and this is all for show. That's the worst part about Tudor torture. You can be torn apart for what someone else thinks you know. Eventually, the torturer stops. There's no announcement, no nod. He just releases the crank and begins untying the prisoner's limbs with surprising gentleness. You watch the man's arms collapse inward, no longer able to support themselves. His legs slide like wet cloth. He doesn't move. He's not dead, but he won't walk the same again. Or sleep the same. Or speak the same. Pain rewrites you. They carry him out, and as the door creaks shut behind them, the room settles into silence. Thick, unbreathing. You leave, legs shaking more than you'd like. Your shoulders feel bruised, even though no one touched you. Every joint in your body feels noticed. Outside, the sun is still shining, but the world feels grayer somehow. Or maybe it's you. You walk past the edge of the square again. Past the stocks. Past the stool. Past the stump and brazier and blood-stained cloth. Each place now has a ghost tied to it in your mind. A moment you'll carry whether you want to or not. You think about going home. You really do. But your feet move forward anyway. As if guided by something else. Curiosity. Dread. Or just that strange, aching need to know what happens next. Because you've heard of a punishment so horrifying it might not even be real. A metal maiden, shaped like a woman, full of spikes. Some say it was never used. A myth, a story to frighten. But in the far corner of the square, under the edge of an old awning, there's a shape draped in black cloth. Someone removes the covering, and there it stands, the Iron Maiden. Whether it's real or theater, you don't know, but the hinges creak. The air around it feels colder. And your body, your whole, trembling, sweating body, steps forward to look. The Iron Maiden stands silently before you. Tall and inhuman, its surface mottled with age and rust. It resembles a coffin shaped like a woman, arched back, defined chest, arms molded to the sides. Like some dark parody of a saint statue. You can't look away. It's morbidly elegant, cruel and theatrical all at once. You know it's made of metal, but it feels like it's watching you. The hinged door is cracked slightly ajar. A guard, young, clearly uncomfortable, steps forward and swings it open with two hands. The groan of the iron sounds too much like a sigh. Inside, it's worse than you imagined. Dozens of thin spikes protruding from the walls. Set at intervals that avoid the heart, the lungs, the spine, not deep enough to kill quickly. Just deep enough to make you bleed. Slowly. Someone beside you whispers, "It's a showpiece." Another mutters, "They never used it." You can hear the uncertainty in their voices. Like children repeating a story they hope isn't true. Historians still argue about the Iron Maiden's authenticity. Some claim it was a later invention, a 19th century curiosity passed off as Tudor horror. But whether or not it was ever truly used, here it is now. In this version of Tudor England, fear doesn't always need to be real to work. A man is brought forward. He's not struggling. That's what gets you. He walks like someone who's already given up every argument in his head. His tunic hangs loosely on his frame, and his lips move, reciting something you can't hear. A prayer, or maybe his final apology. The guards don't force him in. They don't need to. They guide him with gloved hands. As he steps forward, he pauses, just for a second, and turns his face to the crowd. His eyes scan the dozen or so onlookers. But they don't land on anyone. Or maybe they land on everyone. Including you. You don't look away. He steps inside. The door closes with a metallic kiss. Not a slam. You flinch at the sound anyway. And then, a pause. Long enough to make you question everything. Then comes the click of the latch. And you swear you hear something else. A grunt. A cough. A single, muffled breath. The maiden stands still. No blood seeps out. No cries come from within. Just the sense of something terrible having occurred, and the fact that you were here to witness it. The man inside doesn't emerge. You rub your arms, suddenly aware of the chill. Or is it sweat? The sensation is hard to name. Like standing too close to a fire and a blizzard at the same time. Someone in the crowd speaks too loudly. They deserved it. No one answers. Your body feels tense, drawn tight from the parade of punishments you've seen. The stocks, the whip, the stool, the iron, the rack, the maiden. Each one peels away a layer of comfort, of safety. Until what's left of you is raw and blinking and exposed. Your knees ache from standing. Again. Always. Your back is sore. Your neck stiff from craning to see what you wish you hadn't. The same scratchy tunic clings to you like a reminder that you're still a part of this world, still vulnerable. And still curious. You move away from the Iron Maiden slowly. As if it might notice you. You want to believe it's done. That this is the end of the horror for today. But near the edge of the square, past the market stalls, a new punishment space is being prepared. There's a cauldron, a fire underneath it, something thick and heavy inside. Beginning to bubble, boiling. The sign reads, "For poisoners." You stumble slightly, your body not quite ready for this next act. Boiling alive. You've heard the stories, of course. Everyone has. It's not quick, not precise. The worst part isn't the heat, it's how slow the body reacts. How the skin puckers, how nerves misfire, how long the screaming can last. You move closer. The man accused is already tied. His legs, his arms, his mouth, not gagged, just too terrified to speak. He's young, or maybe just sickly. They say he poisoned his employer. Or perhaps his lover. The story shifts with every whisper. They lift him, slowly, deliberately. His eyes are wide and wild, darting between the flames, the cauldron, the people watching. Your hands go cold, your breathing shallows. And then, inch by inch, They lower him toward the surface. He doesn't scream right away. His feet touch first, just barely, enough to burn. Not enough to kill. The smell that follows is something you hope to forget but no you won't. Seared flesh. Oil. And something sour. Like overcooked onions. The first real scream comes when his knees vanish beneath the surface. It cuts through the square like a blade. The sound carries, echoes, settles into your bones. You close your eyes. It doesn't help. Historians argue whether this was ever truly sanctioned as punishment, or if it was used only in rare, symbolic cases. But standing here now, it feels real. It is real. You take a step back. And another. The crowd is thinner now. Some have left. Others linger at the edges, unsure whether to stay or run. The cauldron bubbles on. You turn away. You're done. You're certain of it this time. But just as you begin walking toward the outer wall, someone says, "They've prepared the gallows." And your feet, traitors that they are, turn toward the next horror. Even as your heart begs you not to. The gallows rise against the sky like skeletal arms reaching upward, wooden. Cracked. Permanent. You can see the ropes already swinging. Gently. In the breeze. They creak like an old ship moored at harbor. Waiting for the tide. But here, the tide never comes. Only justice. Or something that tries to pass for it. You make your way closer. Feet dragging slightly now. The grass is trampled from too many spectators. Too many shows. It's trampled hope. Really. Each blade bent in the same direction, away from mercy. The crowd has swelled again. People are drawn to the gallows in a way they weren't to the rack or the Iron Maiden. Perhaps because hanging feels familiar. It's not cloaked in mystery or legend. It's simple. A rope. A drop. A breath stopped mid-sentence. Two men are brought forward. Bound at the wrists. Escorted by guards. Heads lowered but chins tight. You can tell they're trying to be brave. One mutters something, perhaps a prayer. The other simply looks ahead, as if there's nothing left to look back at. Their crimes, according to the town crier, include highway theft and defiance of the crown. Vague words, vague enough to cover anything from robbing a nobleman's cart to speaking too loudly about taxes. You stand at the edge of the crowd, your back stiff. Arms folded over that same coarse tunic, now dusted with ash from the brazier and bits of something unnameable from earlier punishments. The wind picks up, and the rope sways again, casting long shadows over the scaffold like fingers pointing downward. The executioner is already in place. Hooded, gloved, efficient. He tests the trapdoor with a few stomps. It gives slightly under his heel, the way it's meant to. The sound echoes down to your knees. One man is led forward. He says his name, loud and proud. It feels like a final act of resistance. The crowd is quiet. Even children hush. The noose is placed around his neck. It looks loose at first, but the executioner adjusts it, pulling it snug behind the ear, the spot where it does the most work. Historians still debate whether Tudor hangings were precise enough to break the neck cleanly or if most victims dangled, twitching, choking on their own weight. Today, you'll see for yourself. The man looks skyward, maybe toward heaven, maybe just the clouds, and then the lever is pulled. The trapdoor snaps open with a thunderous crack, and the man disappears. You see the rope go taut. His body jerks once, twice, then stills. The silence that follows is a second punishment. For you, for everyone watching, you hear someone sniffle. Someone else mutters, "Clean." The second man is brought forward. He's shaking now. Whatever composure he had is gone. The executioner repeats the same process, rope, adjustment, nod, but this man begs. Just for a moment, a few words. Please, not like this. The lever doesn't care. The door drops. And so does he. This time, the rope doesn't snap quite right. His legs kick. His torso twists. The sound from his throat is not human. You grip your arms tight to keep from shaking. Your breath catches. Your eyes sting. It takes a full minute before the movement stops. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. People murmur. Some leave. Others stay. Because staying feels like an obligation. Like once you've seen this much, turning away would make it worse. You wonder how many people went home after seeing something like this and just never spoke again. The bodies are taken down. Carefully. Almost gently. As if that makes up for it. A cart waits nearby, lined with straw and darkened wood. The men are laid inside. Their heads loll. Their mouths hang open, as if still trying to say something important. You wipe your palms on your tunic. They're clammy. Your stomach churns. But there's nothing in it to come up. There's no applause. No relief. Just the sound of birds, oblivious. Uncaring, circling overhead. And yet, just as you think you might finally turn away for good, a man with a scroll steps forward. His voice rings out across the square. Treason, he says. And for such, the sentence is more thorough. You feel the tension shift instantly. Everyone knows what's coming. Hanging was only the beginning. Now comes the drawing, and the quartering, the full execution. Your feet don't want to move forward. But they do. Slowly. Stubbornly. Like they've resigned themselves to walking through every circle of this hell. The platform is being prepared, ropes. Knives. A small table laid out like a feast. Except nothing here will be eaten. At least, not by anyone living. They bring the prisoner out last. He's bruised, bloodied, probably already tortured. His shirt is ripped. His breathing shallow. You can barely recognize the shape of him as human. But he walks. Somehow, he walks. He's tied again, not just at the neck, but at the waist, the wrists, the ankles. His eyes are open, but vacant, like all the screaming was already done in private. The process begins with care. Almost tenderness. The same way a hunter might dress a deer. You don't look away. Not this time. Because if he has to endure it, the least you can do is bear witness. And as the first blade is lifted, and the first cut made, you think, this isn't justice. It's art. Dark, cruel, ritualistic art. And everyone is part of the audience. The man on the platform doesn't make a sound when the knife touches him. Not at first. His body jolts, just slightly, as though struck by a breath of wind. Not steel. The blade traces across his abdomen. And only then does the noise begin, a low, fractured moan that rises like smoke, curling up into the morning air. It's not a scream. It's something older than that. A sound from the deepest part of a person. The part that knows pain doesn't always mean dying. Sometimes. It means surviving longer than you want to. You feel it in your stomach. That uneasy flutter that makes your muscles clench. Like your own body is trying to fold inward. You grip your arms again. That same coarse tunic fabric rubs your elbow raw. You don't care. It's grounding. You're still outside the ropes. The executioner works methodically. This is not his first quartering. His hands are steady. His blade, sharp. The crowd? Quiet. Even the birds have stopped calling. The usual murmur of Tudor punishment, the giggles, the chatter, the merchants hawking pies, is absent here. This is sacred. In a grim, horrible way. They start with the disembowelment. It's slow. Intended to be. The man groans again. And this time, a few heads turn away. Not you. You can't. Because something inside you believes that if someone must endure this, someone else must see it. Really see it. Every tremor. Every wince, every drop of blood that stains the planks beneath him like ink blotted on paper. You think of how the body keeps going, even when it shouldn't, how the human form clings to life long past the moment the mind has given up. The man is still alive, still twitching, still present. Historically, hang, draw, and quarter was the sentence for high treason in Tudor England. Reserved for those who betrayed the crown or conspired against it. Some records describe crowds cheering, throwing coins. Others say even hardened onlookers wept. Scholars argue over whether it was always carried out to the full extent, or shortened when mercy was granted. But there is no mercy today. The executioner reaches for the next blade, thicker, curved, a heavier instrument. This is for the limbs. A pair of horses are brought forward. You blink, trying to make sense of it. Then you remember the quartering part. Each limb, tied to a separate horse. The rest is imagination. Until it isn't. They start with the legs. Ropes tightened around ankles. Knots double-checked. The crowd has edged back slightly. Some because they fear blood. Others because they don't want to meet the man's eyes. You catch a glimpse of his face. He's crying now. Not weeping. Not sobbing. Just tears. Slow and steady. Cutting clean tracks through the grime on his cheeks. His lips are moving again. You wonder if he's praying. Or cursing. Or simply whispering the names of people he once loved. And then the signal comes. The horses move. The ropes pull tight. The man doesn't scream this time. His mouth opens. But no sound emerges. His whole body arches. And then collapses inward. You feel your knees nearly give out. The sound of muscle tearing is surreal. Wet. Too intimate. One leg is gone. They move to the arms. The process repeats, slow. Exacting. A theater of agony. The crowd is utterly still. The man is barely moving now. His body has become a thing. An example. The executioner finally steps back. The limbs are collected, wrapped. The torso, left behind, is unrecognizable. And yet you know. This was a person. The head is removed last. With a sword, not an axe. A final moment of strange dignity. They place it on a pike. The crowd exhales. Your body feels distant. Your fingers are cold. Your throat dry. There is no applause. Just the long shuffling of feet as people turn away. Suddenly remembering they have lives. Children, soup to make, livestock to tend. You don't move. You stare at the platform. The stain has spread, thick, dark, like a shadow that refuses to lift. A boy passes by, holding his father's hand. He looks up at you and says, "Did it hurt?" You don't answer. You don't even blink. Because you're thinking of what comes next. Of how even death, here, is not the end. There's still one more punishment, quieter. But heavier. A sentence with no wound. No scream. Just silence. In stone. You follow the guards now, not because you're told to. But because your legs carry you. They're headed to the prison. The clink. The fleet. The place where people are punished not by steel, but by waiting. You step into the prison and the air changes instantly. It's not just colder, it's thicker. Moist. Heavy. Ancient. You breathe it in and it coats your throat with the taste of mildew and regret. The stone walls are wet to the touch. Sweating with centuries of silence. Somewhere deeper in, a rat skitters. Somewhere else, someone coughs. A hacking, wet sound that seems to echo forever. This is the clink, or maybe the fleet, or maybe one of the countless other places in Tudor England where people were forgotten before they were ever truly sentenced. Here, the punishment isn't swift or bloody, it's slow. Creeping. A hunger that gnaws at the soul long before it touches the bones. You follow the jailer. His keys clank at his belt. And his boots slap against the stone in a rhythm that feels like a death toll. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. Everything about this place says enough. You pass cells that are barely larger than coffins. Some have wooden doors with slats. Others are simply barred, like cages. Inside, figures huddle under scraps of cloth. Blankets, maybe, or just old tunics. Repurposed. One man is mumbling to himself. Another is drawing something on the wall with what looks like, no. You realize, it's not charcoal. It's something darker. You look away. Prison here is not meant for rehabilitation. It's meant for memory. A reminder. A lingering threat. The jailer gestures for you to step forward. And you do. Your boots sink slightly into the straw-lined floor. It squishes. You don't want to think about why. In one cell, a woman sits perfectly still. Her eyes are open but glassy. As if she's somewhere else entirely. Her fingernails are caked with dirt. She rocks slightly, just enough to notice. Just enough to unsettle. You wonder how long she's been here. They say people are sent to prison in Tudor England for all sorts of reasons. Debts unpaid, suspicions unproven, words poorly timed, or sometimes, simply for being inconvenient. Historians argue whether the Clink and Fleet were always this cruel, or if their reputation outgrew their reality. But from where you're standing, reputation and reality look exactly the same. Your knees ache again. Always. You've grown used to it. But now the pain pulses in rhythm with the dripping water somewhere overhead. Your tunic sticks to your back. You shift your weight. It doesn't help. In the next cell, a boy, no older than 12, is curled up, arms around his knees. He looks up at you. Doesn't blink, doesn't move, just stares. There's something unsettling in the stillness of it, like he's frozen into the stone itself. You hear someone whisper, "He stole a book." That's all it takes. The jailer finally speaks. "This one's been here since Lent." You calculate. That's months. Months in the dark. Months in straw soaked with everything a body can release. Months with bread so stale it shatters when bitten. Water that's barely water. Company that's worse than solitude. Your stomach twists. There's no branding iron here. No rope. No flame. And yet, this punishment lingers longer than any of them. Because it doesn't take a life, it drains one. A man coughs again. The echo is so familiar now. It feels like a lullaby. You pass a cell where the door is left ajar. Inside, no one sits. No one lies down. Just a bundle of cloth and the unmistakable shape of legs. Curled like quotation marks. The smell is worse here. Flies dance above it like priests at a grim procession. No one comes to take the body. Not yet. You step away. Quickly. The jailer stops in front of another cell and gestures with his chin. "This one's lucky," he says. "Gets to leave tomorrow." You glance inside. The prisoner is gaunt but upright. He's packing what little he owns, a crust of bread wrapped in cloth. A wooden cup. A scrap of something with a name carved into it. You meet his eyes. He smiles. It startles you. He whispers, "I confessed." And just like that, you realize, sometimes, freedom costs more than the truth. Because in here, even a lie can feel like rescue. The jailer turns back, his keys jingling like iron wind chimes. You follow. Slowly. Each step heavier than the last. Your breath fogs slightly in the colder corridor. Ahead, a sliver of light cuts across the floor. The exit. As you step back into the daylight, it hits you all at once. The stocks, the whip, the bridle, the stool, the brand, the cleaver, the rack, the boiling pot, the hanging rope, the dark cell, each one a page in a twisted storybook of pain. And somehow, Tudor England found a way to turn suffering into rhythm, into ritual. You lean against a wooden post outside the prison gate. Your legs throb, your eyes sting, the wind feels too clean. And yet, the day isn't done. Because you hear a name being shouted again. A child this time. And you know, somewhere inside, that there are lessons Tudor England teaches its youngest, with cruelty. Not care. The crowd this time is thinner. Quieter. Less certain of how to behave. It's different when it's a child. Even here, even in Tudor England, you move through the murmuring townsfolk until you reach the square again. Your body groaning like an old door hinge. You expect to see a scaffold or a brand. Maybe the stocks freshly scrubbed. But instead, there's just a simple wooden bench and a small boy, no more than 10, sitting on it with his legs swinging. Just barely brushing the ground. His ankles are tied with twine. Not rope, just enough to make a point. His tunic hangs off one shoulder. He's too thin for it. His face is round but hollowed. Cheeks stained with old tears. Not new ones. He's not crying now. He's staring at the sky like someone pretending to see birds. A bailiff reads aloud. Caught stealing from a merchant's stall. Dried figs. 3. You feel your throat tighten. The merchant stands nearby, arms crossed, his own belly stretching the seams of his vest. He looks embarrassed, or angry, or both, as if he's not sure how this child managed to make him look small. A constable steps forward, holding a rod, polished wood, notched. You understand what's about to happen. Whipping a child isn't the same as whipping a man. Not because it hurts less, but because it settles into the bones differently. Like a story that gets rewritten every time the wind shifts. You glance around. The onlookers are mostly adults. One or two children cling to their mothers. Everyone's watching, but no one speaks. The constable lays the rod across the boy's palm. Hold out your hand. The boy doesn't move. Now, the man repeats. You feel it, deep in your stomach. The ache of witnessing something that should not happen but will. Finally, slowly, the boy extends his right hand. Palm up, small, barely big enough to hold a coin. The constable brings down the rod. Crack. The boy flinches, but doesn't cry out. Again. Crack. A red line rises across the skin like a snake waking from sleep. You see his lips tighten. One more. Crack. 3 strokes. That's all. The sentence fulfilled. The boy pulls his hand back and holds it under his arm. Rocking slightly, the constable steps away. Someone in the crowd claps once, then seems to regret it. The sound dies quickly. Historians still discuss whether Tudor society saw child punishment as discipline or as deterrent. Many say it was simply survival, teach the lesson early, or lose the child to bigger crimes later. Others point out how often mercy was shown by not killing a boy outright. A chilling thought. You don't move. The boy is untied. He hops off the bench. Stumbles. A woman nearby, maybe his mother, maybe just someone who's seen too much, steps forward and offers him a cloth. He takes it. Without a word, he walks away, clutching his hand in his silence like 2 fragile things he'll never put down again. You want to go after him. To say something, anything. But there's nothing to say that will undo the welts. The merchant has already turned back toward his stall, counting figs, or coins, or time. You exhale. Finally, long and slow. Your own hands are clenched. You didn't realize it until your knuckles pop. You think that must be the end, that there can't possibly be more. But then someone in the square says, "There's another. A girl this time." Your heart sinks. She's brought out with less ceremony. No bench this time, just a spot in the dirt. She's perhaps 13, maybe 14. Her feet are bare, her hair tangled, her eyes sharp, tired, but sharp. Her crime? She spoke back. To a teacher, a priest, a magistrate. It doesn't matter which. What matters is that she's here now. The punishment? Ducking. Not in the river this time. No stool. No public swing. A simple trough. You hadn't seen it before. It's shallow. Not wide, but filled to the brim with water so cold. Steam curls off it in the warming sun. The constable says, "Hold her." 2 men do. One at each arm. And then they plunge her head into the trough. No drama. No crowd cheering. Just water and breath and time. You count. 1, 2, 3, 4. They pull her out. She gasps, coughs, sputters. Her hair clings to her neck like ivy. Her chest heaves. Insolence, the constable says. And down she goes again. Your lungs start to ache in sympathy. You imagine that icy water curling into your ears. Your nose. Your mouth. Your head pounding from the pressure. 7 seconds this time. When they pull her up, she doesn't cough. She just breathes. Slow and steady. A third time. 5 seconds. Then it's over. They let her go. She falls to her knees. Soaking wet. Clothes clinging to skin and dignity alike. No applause. Just the sound of her breathing. You wonder who she'll become. A rebel. A healer. A mother who never forgets. Or perhaps she'll simply vanish into the fabric of this place, carrying her silence like armor. You walk away this time. Truly. Because there is nothing left to see. But even as your steps lead you out of the square, your mind holds onto the image of her, kneeling, dripping, defiant, and you realize something Tudor punishment has taught you more clearly than anything else. It begins with pain, but it ends with memory. You make your way down a narrow lane, one that curves behind the market square, past rows of crooked buildings with thatched roofs and sagging shutters. The cobblestones are slick from last night's rain. And every now and then you feel your ankle roll slightly as your foot slips just enough to remind you that nothing here is stable, not the ground, not the laws, not even your place in the crowd. Ahead, you see a cart, just a cart, nothing dramatic, but on the bench sits a man, wrists bound in front, staring straight ahead with eyes that look like they've already traveled the road he's about to take. This isn't punishment, not yet, this is transport. But in Tudor England, where you're going can be just as terrifying as where you are. Especially if that cart is headed to the Tower. The Tower of London is many things. A fortress, a prison, a place where people are forgotten, or remembered too well. The man on the cart is dressed simply, but not poorly. You guess a merchant, maybe someone who owed the wrong debt to the wrong person. Maybe someone who said too much over too much ale. The driver gives a low whistle to the horse and the cart jolts forward. You follow at a distance, like smoke after a fire. Just close enough to see, far enough to not be counted. The gates of the tower loom up ahead, stone and iron and shadow. They say if you pass through those gates, you leave your name behind. That the walls don't echo, they absorb. Inside, it's quiet, too quiet. You hear the clatter of the cartwheels on flagstone, the creak of the harness, the nervous snort of the horse, and nothing else. The man is led away, down a corridor that swallows him whole. The last thing you see is the back of his head, and the slow sag of his shoulders. You stand there for a moment longer than you should, until someone asks, "You here for judgment or delivery?" You shake your head and walk away. As you exit the tower grounds, something else catches your eye. A group of people kneeling on the edge of the road. Not punished, not accused, begging. They're wrapped in wool cloaks. Some barefoot, some nursing wounds that haven't seen a poultice in days. And hanging from their necks, each one, a carved wooden badge. The letter P, publicly marked. These are pardoned criminals. Branded, exiled, but spared from execution. In theory. You stop beside one woman. She looks no older than 30. But her eyes are ancient. The scar on her hand, a faded T, peeks out from beneath a strip of cloth. "Mercy," she whispers, though her voice is barely there. "They said I was lucky." You try to smile, but your mouth doesn't move. Tudor pardons were not freedom. They were limbo. A person might be spared death, but their life becomes a sentence of its own. Branded, exiled from trades, denied work, watched. Historians argue whether the crown used pardon as a genuine act of grace or a performance to demonstrate power. But for these people, it makes little difference. They are ghosts among the living. You offer the woman a coin. She doesn't reach for it. Someone else does. Behind you, a new voice rises above the street noise. A royal pardon's been granted. People gather quickly. You turn, squinting against the sun. A parchment is being waved in the air like a victory flag. A name is read aloud. A young man stumbles forward from the edge of the square. He's filthy, thin, bruised, but his name is on that scroll. You see it in the way his mouth falls open, the way his knees nearly give out. He falls at the feet of the guard, sobs. The crowd watches, some in awe, others in suspicion. A royal pardon, rare, sometimes earned, sometimes bought, sometimes given because keeping someone alive is more useful than killing them. The man is lifted, his shackles removed, his tunic re-buttoned with trembling fingers. He's allowed to walk away. No scaffold, no brand, no blade, just air. You find yourself breathing deeper. For him, for yourself. Because in Tudor England, survival is not guaranteed, but once in a while, it happens. Your eyes follow him as he vanishes into the crowd. And for a fleeting moment, the world feels merciful, until someone whispers behind you, "Don't get too hopeful. They always find another." You don't turn around, you just keep walking. The wind has picked up, and the gallows still stand. You wander again, half guided by instinct, half by the sound of people gathering. A different part of the square now, one where firewood is stacked too neatly, too high, for anything ordinary. You already know what's coming. You can feel it in the way your heartbeat slows. Not out of calm, but dread. This is the place of final punishments. Not prison, not exile. Execution. A stake has been planted. It stands upright in the middle of a wide circle, surrounded by bundles of straw and logs, all angled outward like sun rays. It smells of smoke already. Even though the fire hasn't started, the wood is still dry, pale, waiting. They say it's a burning today. And not just anyone, a heretic. The crowd is silent as the accused is led forward. It's a woman, draped in rough cloth, her hands bound at the wrists, her steps slow but unbroken. You can't tell her age, her face is worn. Yes, but it's the kind of wear that comes from courage. Not years. She doesn't stumble. She doesn't weep. She looks up at the sky as if it might open for her. The priests shout her crime, denying the sanctity of the Mass, preaching without authority, possessing forbidden texts. Words. Just words. That's all it took. She's tied to the stake. First at the ankles, then the waist, then across her chest. The ropes are tight, but not cruel. The executioners are methodical. They do this often enough to be precise. A man holding a Bible approaches. He offers her final prayers. She shakes her head. God hears me already. She whispers. Someone gasps. You stand at the edge of the crowd. That now familiar spot where you can see but not be seen. Your tunic is soaked through at the collar. Not from water but from sweat. The firewood crackles faintly as the torch is brought forward. One priest blesses the flame. And then the pile is lit. At first, the fire doesn't roar. It whispers, licks, creeps. Smoke begins to rise, curling up her skirt like gray fingers. She lifts her chin. The first flicker touches her leg. And still, she says nothing. You watch, stomach clenched, as the flames begin to climb. There are no screams yet. You've heard the stories, how long it takes to die this way. How the heat doesn't reach the lungs until the skin has cracked, peeled, given way. How breath becomes impossible not from the fire, but from the smoke. And now, you're watching it happen, not in legend, in life. The crowd is hushed. No jeering, no celebration. Even the children are silent. Someone behind you mutters, "She'll be remembered." And you believe it, because this is not just punishment. It's message, a warning written in ash. Historians have long debated how often burning at the stake was used, and whether it was truly as symbolic as it was painful. Some say it was rare. Others claim it was simply under-recorded. But here, in this square, it is very real. The smoke stings your eyes. The heat brushes your face like an unwanted kiss. You step back. She screams now. Just once. Not a scream of fear. A scream of truth. It echoes off the buildings and vanishes into the sky. You don't know how long the fire lasts. Time melts with the tallow and flesh. When it's over, there is no applause. The crowd disperses like smoke, slowly, solemnly, trying not to carry the smell with them. You turn, not looking back. You've seen too much, but your ears still ring. Your skin still tingles, and your heart, somewhere deep in your chest, feels heavier than it did this morning. You walk aimlessly, past market stalls that no longer matter, past people who no longer feel like neighbors. The town is the same, and somehow, not. You pass a wall where someone has chalked words. Truth burns slower than lies. And then, just as you're about to retreat, to go home, to try to unsee the things that cling to your mind like soot, a priest speaks your name. Loud, clear, in front of everyone. You freeze. Your body goes still. Because in Tudor England, justice never rests. And it never forgets a witness. You turn slowly, as if moving any faster might break something, your composure, your balance, the illusion that you're still safe. But the priest has already locked eyes with you. He holds a scroll in one hand and raises the other as if to still the breeze. His voice, calm but sharpened by repetition, carries across the market square like a bell, summoned for inquiry. It's not an accusation, not yet, But in Tudor England, inquiry is a cold word, dressed in politeness and hidden blades. People shift around you, a few step back, no one touches you, but the space around your body becomes suddenly larger, emptier, as though fear itself creates distance. You're not shackled, not branded, but you're now marked in a different way, by notice. The priest gestures gently. You follow. Your knees are stiff. Your legs feel wooden. Each step clicks against the stone like a countdown. You're led to a small chamber behind the church. A place too humble to be holy. Too narrow to be neutral. A bench. A low table. A crucifix. And parchment. Always parchment. A man is waiting there already, robed. Thin. With a pen in his hand and suspicion in his eyes. He doesn't greet you. He just says, "You've seen much today." You nod, because what else is there to say? He asks you questions. What did you witness? Did you hear anything unusual? Did anyone speak to you? Did you feel moved? Moved? The word clings to the air. You answer carefully, too carefully. Perhaps, in Tudor times, being moved the wrong way could be taken as a sign of sympathy. Which could be taken as alignment. Which could be taken as treason. And the punishment for that, as you've now seen with excruciating clarity, is no mere fine. The scribe watches your face. Not just your words, your eyes. Your breath. Your posture. Everything is evidence. You say what you must. That you are a loyal subject. That you came by accident. That you saw only what was permitted. He scribbles. Nods. Says nothing. Then a pause. A long one. He leans back and whispers. Do you believe the heretic deserved it? Your heart trips. This is the moment. Not because it's loud, but because it's quiet. Because the answer doesn't matter to the world. It matters to him, to the record, to the ink that will carry your breath to someone who's never met you but might hold your life between thumb and finger. You say, I believe in the law. He nods again, but his quill doesn't move. You're dismissed. Just like that. No brand, no lash, no flame. But as you walk out of that room, the weight in your chest is greater than before. Because now, you are part of it. Not a spectator. Not a whisperer in the crowd. You answered. You were heard. You are on a list somewhere. Tucked between the names of people whose fates you just watched play out on wood and rope and stone. The sun has started to set. You notice it first in the way the light hits the cobblestones, no longer gold, but copper. The warmth has drained from the day. Even the smoke from the steak has thinned into streaks of silver. Your hands tremble. You hide them in your sleeves. As you walk back toward the edge of town, you pass a row of carts stacked with barrels. Ale, salted meat, grain. Life continues here. That's the strangest part. A child skips past you, laughing. A woman kneads dough on her windowsill. A blacksmith hammers a horseshoe with practiced rhythm. Nothing has stopped, but you have, for a moment, because your mind still holds the image of the woman in flames. The boy's hand red and shaking. The man on the rack. The whisper of the Iron Maiden's closing door. And now, your name on a scroll. Historians say Tudor justice was about order. About control. About the theater of consequence. But walking now, tunic heavy on your shoulders, throat dry, you realize something deeper. It wasn't about the punishment. It was about the fear of it. And now, that fear lives in you. You leave the square behind, your boots thudding dully along a road that seems narrower than before. As if the town itself is closing in around you. The sun has dipped low now, washing everything in the warm glow of dusk. The kind that should make you feel peaceful. But it doesn't. The light catches on windows, puddles, iron rails, and for a split second, you see gallows in every silhouette. Your body aches, not from injury, but from endurance. Watching punishment is its own form of exhaustion. Your knees feel bruised, your shoulders sag, your thoughts loop like a song you wish you could forget. And still, somehow, you keep moving. Ahead is a small chapel. It's not grand, just a stone rectangle with a wooden door and a cross that leans slightly left. As though even it has grown tired. You sit on the steps. You're not here to pray. You just need to stop. To let your breath catch up with your body. From inside, someone sings a hymn, soft and slow, in Latin, maybe. You don't know the words, but you know the sound. It carries in the air like silk. You close your eyes. For a moment, it almost works. But then you hear something else. A murmur behind the chapel. A voice, low, urgent. You rise and circle the building. Boots crunching over gravel and fallen leaves. Around the back, in the alley between chapel and wall, two men stand whispering. They don't see you. Their hoods are pulled low. Their voices quick and clipped. One holds a folded parchment. The other, a leather pouch. You lean closer. You catch only fragments. Names on the list. Didn't confess. We wait for the magistrate to leave. They turn suddenly. You pretend to be passing through. You don't run. Running draws attention. You walk away with your heart pounding and your mouth dry. You don't know exactly what you've overheard. But you know it's dangerous. And you know now that danger in Tudor England doesn't just wear robes or wield axes, it whispers. It waits. It watches. Your pace quickens. You don't know where you're going. Only that you need to be somewhere else. As you pass the tavern, you hear laughter. Inside, people drink, joke, shout. It's like nothing happened today. Like the scaffold didn't groan under weight. Like the branding iron didn't hiss. Like a child didn't flinch under a rod. But you remember. You always will. The tavern door swings open and a man stumbles out. Ale sloshing in his tankard. He bumps into you. Slurs something. Laughs. You force a smile. Edge away. Because now you understand. In this world, punishment isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a name on a parchment. Sometimes it's the way someone looks at you too long. Sometimes it's the silence that follows your footsteps home. You take the long way back. Past the river, now dark and still. Past the square, now quiet and empty. Past the ducking stool, which creaks in the breeze like it remembers. You pass the scaffold, the stake, the stump. Every sight has a shadow now. And they all follow you. You reach your door, push it open, step inside. The straw on your floor hasn't moved. Your blanket is still damp. The fire has gone out. You sit down. You don't eat. You don't speak. You just sit. And when you finally lie down, you don't sleep, not right away. You stare at the ceiling and trace the day behind your eyes. You think of the boy in the stocks, the girl in the trough, the woman in flames, the man on the rack, and your own name, spoken aloud. Historians talk of policy, law, reform, but none of that matters when you live inside the moment. What matters is this: you survived today, and survival here is never guaranteed. The floor creaks above you. Someone moves in the room next door. You close your eyes and wait for the next dawn. Dawn creeps in like a nervous thief, sliding through the cracked shutters of your room and settling across the floor in long streaks of pale light. You haven't slept. Not really. Maybe your eyes closed for a while. Maybe you drifted in that half-dream where faces blur and voices whisper things you don't want to remember. But your body feels no lighter. If anything, the weight of yesterday has thickened overnight. You sit up slowly. Every joint protests. Your tunic is still twisted from when you collapsed onto the straw. You smell of smoke, of sweat, of fear that never left. Outside, the town stirs. The baker lights his oven. The roosters scream like heralds of another uncertain day. And somewhere, a bell tolls, not for a sermon, but for another punishment. Already, you rise. Wash your face in a basin filled the night before. The water's gone cold. It shocks you into full awareness. The face staring back at you from the rippling surface looks older. Not in years, in understanding. You step outside. The sky is a soft lavender. The air damp and hesitant. People shuffle into the square again. As if yesterday didn't happen. As if the ash from the stake hasn't settled into the cracks between cobblestones. You tell yourself you'll just pass through. That you won't stay this time. But you pause. Because something is different. A boy is sweeping the platform where the last execution took place. His broom brushes across the boards, scattering ash into the wind. He's young, too young to understand, perhaps, or maybe not. In Tudor towns, childhood doesn't last long. He looks up at you, doesn't smile, just nods. You nod back, and then you hear it. Hooves on stone, metal on metal. You turn. A rider in black, bearing a scroll, enters the square. He dismounts slowly, deliberately, and unfurls the parchment. The seal is red, royal. The crier clears his throat and begins to read. This morning, by decree, an arrest is ordered for the following: one woman, charged with concealment of a prohibited text. Your breath catches. A murmur ripples through the crowd. You spot her. She's already been taken, held between two guards. Thin, silent, but not broken. Her eyes are downcast, but her hands, you notice, are clenched, not in fear, in refusal. The crier continues, to be taken to the chapel crypt for inquiry. If confession is not made, the sentence shall proceed before sundown. Sundown. That means you've got until evening to pretend today is normal. But nothing is. You stay, though you said you wouldn't. You watch her being led away, disappearing around the corner. A living secret trapped in a body the law wants to dissect. You wander the streets after that. You pass people gossiping about the arrested woman. One says she read scriptures in English. Another claims she cursed a priest. A third swears she was seen hiding books under the floorboards. Everyone speaks with certainty. No one knows the truth. That's the danger in this place. Truth doesn't matter if the story's good enough. You duck into a small shop to escape the noise. The scent of herbs and vinegar greets you, medicinal. Sharp. A healer's den. An old woman tends the jars. She doesn't look at you when she says. If they've caught her, they already know what they want her to say. You nod. What happens if she refuses? You ask. The woman stirs something in a bowl. Then they teach her how to speak with fire. You leave quickly. The day stretches onward. The gallows still stand, unused for now, but not for long. You pass the scaffold. You glance at the branding brazier. Still warm. Everything here feels like it's waiting. Not for justice, but for justification. Afternoon brings more tension. People talk in smaller groups now. Eyes dart. Voices lower. And when the guards reappear at dusk with torches, no one is surprised. The woman has not confessed. They say she was offered mercy. Silence. Exile. She said no. You return to the square without meaning to. Like being pulled by a tide. She's brought forward again. Her feet bare. Her expression calm. You think she looks more alive now than anyone else you've seen all day. The execution is swift. A rope. A prayer. A final breath. But what stays with you is not the silence that follows. It's the fact that no one walks away the same. Not even you. As the sun dips below the rooftops, the sky blazes orange, like the flames you watched the day before. You shiver. Because Tudor punishment isn't just about what it does to a person. It's about what it leaves behind. Night returns slowly, like ink spilled across the edges of the world. You walk the streets in the afterglow of another punishment. Though, after, feels like the wrong word. Nothing ever truly ends here. It just simmers, quiet, smoky, waiting to boil again. Lanterns flicker in windows. The tavern is full once more. People drink to forget, or to remember together. You pass their laughter without joining. It sounds too sharp, like glass cracking in a cold room. Your body aches from walking. But stopping feels worse, so you keep moving. You round a corner, past the apothecary, then the shoemaker's shop with the crooked door. That's when you hear it, a soft rustle. Not the sound of rats or horses. Parchment. Someone is hanging a notice on the church wall. You approach. The poster is fresh. The ink hasn't dried fully. The letters are bold and stern. New writs issued, offenses under royal scrutiny. Below are listed names, accusations, summons. No punishments yet. But you know better than to find comfort in yet. A man beside you mutters. They're just names. They can always add more. You nod, instinctively checking for your own. You don't see it, but your stomach doesn't ease. Because in Tudor England, being known is its own liability. You move on. The bells from the chapel chime again, calling for Compline, the night prayers. You follow the sound, not for worship, for shelter. Inside, the air is warm, thick with wax and quiet voices. You slide into the back pew, grateful for the shadows. Candles glow like eyes closed in thought. The priest speaks softly, words rolling in Latin. You catch fragments. Peace, mercy, justice. You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, but because today you've seen what mercy means. And how thin peace is. You shift in your seat. The bench is hard, your back stiff, your tunic itches again, that same seam. You wonder if it's always been there, or if today just made you feel it more. A woman beside you whispers the prayers with her eyes shut. Her hands are blistered, maybe from scrubbing floors, maybe from holding onto hope too tightly. When the prayers end, she turns to you and says, "My brother was taken last year." You say nothing. She continues, "He returned last week. Quiet now, doesn't speak, doesn't sleep, but he's home." You want to ask her if that counts as freedom. Instead, you whisper, "I'm sorry." She nods, as if that's all anyone can say anymore. Outside, the wind picks up, leaves scrape along the ground. You step into the dark again. You walk past the blacksmith's forge, cold now. Past the pillory, which leans slightly, one hinge bent. Past the brazier, the stool, the branding bench. Each side is quieter at night, but not empty. Because now, a new kind of punishment begins. Waiting. For many in Tudor England, the worst part was not the lash or the flame. It was not knowing. Would the name be called? Would the door knock at midnight? Would the pardon come? Would it not? You feel it now. That weight behind your ribs. That tick of uncertainty. You reach your door again. Inside, everything is exactly as you left it. And yet, different. The straw feels less like a bed, more like a sentence. The fire you light hisses like protest. You sit in the silence. Not because it comforts you, but because it teaches. Because punishment here doesn't need a rope. It only needs a reason. And you've seen how easily those are invented. You unlace your boots. Your fingers shake. You eat nothing. You listen to the wind at the shutters and wonder how long your name will stay off the parchment. You lie down and try not to dream. Because in your dreams, the priest still calls your name. And this time, no one interrupts. You wake to a sound that doesn't belong in dreams. A knock, 2, then 3. Not loud, but insistent. The kind that bypasses your ears and lands straight in your chest. You sit up slowly, every muscle tight. The fire has gone out. The room smells of cold ash and damp cloth. Another knock. You don't move. Maybe if you're quiet enough, it'll stop. But it doesn't. You stand, cross the room, hand trembling as you lift the latch. It's a boy, 12, maybe 13, holding a small scroll and wearing shoes too big for his feet. "You're summoned," he says, like it's the weather. He hands you the parchment and walks away without waiting. You stare at the seal. Not royal this time, local. The magistrate. You break it open with the edge of your thumbnail. The message is short. You are requested as a witness. Inquiry. Noon. Magistrate's hall. You exhale slowly. It's not an arrest. Not yet. But it's not nothing. You dress. Same tunic. Same boots. Same scratchy seam. Everything in place. And yet the world feels subtly off balance. As if something inside you has shifted 1 degree, and that's all it takes to tilt everything. Outside, the town is awake. Bakers, coopers, washerwomen, the same rhythm, the same smells, the same clatter of hooves on stone. And yet you move through it differently now. People nod to you, but you wonder, are they nodding because they know you? Or because they've seen your name? The magistrate's hall sits beside the chapel. Plain stone, arched doors, and an interior that smells of ink and sweat and old judgments. You're led into a room with a long table. There are no windows, just candles, flickering, watching. The magistrate is a thin man with paper-colored skin and lips that look like they forgot how to smile. He offers no greeting, just a gesture to sit. You do. He reads from a book. Slowly, deliberately. You were present for the punishment carried out on the heretic known as Marjorie White. You nod. You witnessed her composure, her words, her refusal. Again, you nod. He peers over the parchment at you. Did she speak to you? You hesitate. No. His quill scratches across the page. Did she look at you? You don't answer. Because she did. And so did the boy. And the man on the rack. And the woman in the scold's bridle. They all looked. At someone. At anyone. At you. The magistrate asks again. You say, yes. But only once. He writes it down. Slowly. As if the speed of the ink could change your fate. He asks more questions. Most of them harmless. Some not. One of them, about your own reading habits, hangs in the air too long. I'm not a scholar. You say, voice calm. I can't even read well. Another lie in a town built on the need for believable ones. He nods, but doesn't smile. That will be all. You stand. He adds, stay within town for the next few days. In case we need clarification. You nod once. Then leave. Outside, the sun is bright and wrong. Your eyes sting. The people you pass look like they're moving through water. Slow. Distant. You feel like a ghost in your own life. You return home, but you don't go inside. Instead, you walk past your door. Toward the chapel. Toward the square. Toward a place you know you shouldn't go. The platform is gone. Dismantled overnight. The stake burned down. The scaffold empty. But the memory remains. Someone has left flowers at the base of the post. Simple ones. Wilted. You stare at them for a while. Then you sit on the edge of the square. And you think about what's coming. Because this place doesn't rest. Not truly. Punishment isn't just something that happens. It's something that waits. You remember what someone once told you. Justice has many hands. But here, it only needs eyes. And now, they've seen you. The afternoon drags like a weighted cloak. You keep to the edges of the street now, instinctively. Avoiding the eye contact you used to return without a second thought. Every glance feels longer. Every murmur seems about you. The town hasn't changed, but you have. You walk differently. Not with fear. Exactly. With caution. Like a thread stretched too tight. You pass the merchant's stall where the boy once stole figs. He's not there today. Maybe hiding. Maybe punished again. Maybe worse. The merchant doesn't look up as you pass. Just counts coins. Brow furrowed. Down another street. You see a crowd. Not a loud one. A quiet, pressing sort of gathering. The kind you've learned to fear most. You approach slowly. It's not a punishment. It's confession day. Once a week. By order of the church. The people of the town are encouraged, read, expected, to confess anything that might weigh upon the soul. But you've seen what kind of soul counting really happens here. A boy stumbles out of the chapel. Eyes red, tunic wrinkled. He's holding a token, a small wooden cross. It means forgiveness, or surveillance, depending on who gives it. Inside, there are queues, neatly formed. Priests wait in shadowed alcoves. Like doorways to judgment. You don't enter. You almost do. But something in you says no. You turn away, slipping between buildings, past the butchers with the stained barrels and the stable that always smells of straw and something sour. You reach the edge of town, where the walls rise and the gate watches. And there, you see them. The watch list. A simple board. A few nails. A dozen names. Updated daily. These aren't criminals. Not officially. These are persons of interest. Those who've been questioned. Those whose answers weren't quite right. Those who stood too long. Saw too much. Or were simply too slow to nod when someone said, Amen. Your name is not there. Not yet. But the spaces between the names, they feel like teeth waiting for your own. A man nearby spits and walks away. You step back. The gate looms. Beyond it, fields, forest, roads. You could leave. But then what? The writ demands you stay. And more than that, something deeper holds you here, a need to see. Maybe it's foolishness, or pride, or the same grim magnetism that's kept you at every scaffold and stake. The need to bear witness. You pass by the tanner's shop, the square, the chapel again. Dusk falls slowly, casting long shadows that stretch like reaching hands. You wonder what it must feel like to live in a time when night meant peace. Not this place. Here, darkness just means fewer eyes on what's done. You head home. On the step sits a piece of parchment. Folded, unsealed. You pick it up. Your name is written on the outside. Inside, just 4 words. They're watching you. No signature. Your hands tremble. You go inside and shut the door. The fire is out again. You don't bother lighting it. You sit in the cold. And you try to remember who you were before the first punishment. Before the stocks, the stake, the rack, the child, the parchment, the eyes. But that person feels far away now. That person didn't know how long it takes for a body to burn. Or how short a silence can be before it becomes suspicion. You lie down. The straw rustles beneath you. You stare at the ceiling and count breaths. Because that's all you're allowed to count anymore. You wake before dawn, though you're not sure you ever really slept. Your mind has begun counting other things now. How many times the guard passed your door last night? How many steps it takes to reach the square? How many names have disappeared from the market in just the last week? Numbers used to mean trade in measure and bread. Now they mean absence. Outside, the town is still asleep. No carts rolling yet. No bells. Just mist curling along the ground like something searching. You step into it quietly. Tunic damp at the collar. Boots scuffed from too many hesitant detours. You walk with the kind of awareness that only the watched truly master. You pass the chapel. The doors are closed, but a candle still flickers inside. You pause at the threshold. Not from faith, but memory. Marjorie White, the boy, the priest who called your name. All of it began and ended here. You step back, unwilling to enter. The baker's door is open. He nods to you, says nothing. You nod back. It's a ritual now, acknowledgement without risk. Too many words make suspicion. Too much silence does the same. The space in between is where survival lives. At the square, a new notice is posted. You've stopped reading them. They're always the same, lists of expectations masked as grace. Names hidden beneath clever phrases like, those in need of guidance, or invited to attend reflection. You know what they mean. So does everyone else. But no one says it aloud. Today, the stocks are empty. The gallows too. The brazier is dark. For the first time in days. There's no blood on the boards. No ash in the wind. And yet, the quiet feels worse. You sit on the edge of the well. Watch the town wake. One shop opens. Then another. A child skips past with a loaf under her arm. A dog barks. Normalcy. Worn thin like an old cloak. You think of running again. Of slipping past the gates under cover of dark. But you know how that ends. Flight is guilt here. Innocence does not run. Instead, you walk the long way around the river. You pass the place where the ducking stool was. The water is calm. You'd almost believe nothing happened if you hadn't been there. You cross the small footbridge. Wood creaks under your steps. The fields stretch out beyond. And you imagine life elsewhere, quiet villages. Distant from royal decrees and hanging lists. But in your gut, you know. Nowhere in this land is untouched. The crown's shadow is long. The church's reach is wide. And fear travels faster than messengers. You turn back. Back toward the wall. Back toward the gate. The town waits. At your door. Another parchment. No name this time. Just one sentence. Scrawled hastily. They asked about you again. You don't go inside. You walk. Fast. Not out of panic, but because movement feels safer than stillness. You end up at the chapel steps again. Inside, the priest is alone, sweeping. He glances up. Still here, he says. You nod. For now. He leans on his broom. They'll call you again. You know. You've seen too much. He adds. You say nothing. He sets the broom aside and walks into the vestry. And you, alone again, sit on the lowest step. Because sitting here makes you feel like maybe you're not a part of it. Even if you are, you rest your hands on your knees. Stare down at your palms. Whole, still, no brand, no blood, but not untouched. Never untouched. The bells begin to toll the hour. Another day begins. And you wonder if this one will be the day your name truly lands on the list. Or if your face, too, will become one of the town's quiet ghosts, spoken of, remembered, but never quite seen again. The final day arrives without announcement. No trumpet, no decree, no gallows raised in the night. Just morning light, soft and golden, spilling over the rooftops as if the sun doesn't know what's happened here, or chooses not to care. You step outside, expecting the familiar dread, the invisible weight on your shoulders. But there's something else now. Not lightness, not peace, a strange, tired clarity, as if your mind has finally accepted that Tudor justice is not a nightmare. But a weather system, you don't escape it. You endure it. The town moves around you with a sort of sleepy ritual. Shopkeepers open shutters. Chickens dart into alleys. A black dog lies in the middle of the street. Unmoving, unbothered. It all feels normal. And that's what makes it eerie. Because you know what this place is capable of. What it has done. You carry it in your bones now. You walk slowly toward the square. Not because you expect anything, but because your body still follows the paths it's been taught. The stage is empty. The brazier is gone. The scold's bridle. The stocks. The stump. All cleared away. The square looks almost clean. Until you see the post. Not the stake. A smaller one. Simpler. A notice board nailed to it. Blank parchment pinned there with nothing written yet. But you understand what it is. A placeholder. A reminder. The punishments may pause. But the machine never truly sleeps. It just changes shape. You stand in the middle of the square and look around. No one is watching you. And yet, you feel seen. You remember it all. The boy's hand. The girl in the trough. The fire. The rack. The silence in the prison. The scroll with your name. And the fear, not just of punishment, but of being forgotten. Because that's the real cruelty here, not death. Not pain, but erasure. The kind of forgetting that leaves no headstone. Only stories. Only rumors. You take a seat near the well and close your eyes. You feel the warmth on your face. You listen to the clatter of carts. The call of birds. The hum of conversation just beyond comprehension. And for a moment, you try to forget. You picture somewhere far from here. A field. A stream. A place where words are spoken softly and never used against you. But when you open your eyes, the town is still here. Still watching. Still waiting. And yet, so are you. You stand. You walk home. You light a fire and sit in its glow. For the first time, it warms you. Doesn't burn. Doesn't threaten. Just warms. You look down at your hands, still yours. And you whisper, not a prayer, but a promise. To remember. To speak, when it's safe. To carry every face, every cry, every injustice like a stone in your pocket. Heavy. Grounding. Real. Because the Tudor world is cruel. But forgetting would be worse. You lie back. The fire crackles. Outside, the wind picks up, soft. Steady. Like breath. Your eyes drift shut. And you let yourself rest. Your breathing slows. The room is still. The fire burns lower now. Its glow like the gentle rhythm of a heartbeat, slow. Steady. Warm. You lie there, wrapped in quiet. Feeling the weight of the day finally settle. Your limbs soften. The tension in your shoulders releases like a knot finally undone. Outside, the wind moves through the trees, brushing past the walls like a lullaby whispered from the edges of the world. In this space, between sleep and memory, the images blur, faces become echoes, footsteps become silence, and the fear that gripped your chest like iron loosens. You are no longer in the square, no longer among the parchment and the flame. You are somewhere quieter now, somewhere softer, a place where no names are read aloud, where no one waits to be called, where no lists are pinned to posts. Just the rustle of straw beneath you, the faint scent of wood smoke, the comfort of knowing that, for now, your name belongs to no one else. Your hands relax, your breath deepens, and the sound of the fire fades into the sound of nothing at all. Sleep takes you gently, like a tide coming in. You are still here, you are still whole, and you are not alone.